So, welcome back. Last week, we zeroed in on your temperaments and how important it is for your words and understanding where they land, right, on people. So what we want to talk about now is there's different combinations that you, of course, are going to come in contact with, not only with your own children, but the children around you, because it's very highly unlikely that if you're a yellow, you're only going to have yellow children. That's what we found out. Or red, only have red children around you. So I'm going to give you some tips that you may want to write down for some color combinations that are going to help you maneuver through this. I'm going to start it off. I happen to be a blue mom, and I have a yellow daughter. And when she was about 5 or 6, she decided that she was going to dress up like Elmo. Elmo brought her joy. She loved Elmo. So she was going to dress up like Elmo, push an Elmo stroller with an Elmo in the stroller, and she was going to go door to door and bring happiness and fun and good cheer to all the neighbors, right? Isn't that beautiful? Not to a blue mom. It bumped against my temperament immediately. Because I thought, oh my gosh, is she going to be safe? She's probably going to get kidnapped. Like somebody's going to just nap her off. They
might not want her. They might have their pile.
There you go. They might slam the door and hurt her feelings and dull her sparkle, right? So I'm immediately transferring my fear and my blueness onto this beautiful yellow child. And thinking, if I don't stop this right now, I am going to dull her sparkle, right? So I even had to learn the tips myself, right, for a blue parent and a yellow child. So the first tip is approve them out loud for who they are without asking them to become something different. So do you see what that looks like in the story?
Well, I just can, as a yellow, I can receive that so much. Thank you for starting that.
Well, you're welcome.
You are so creative. What a really neat idea.
Okay, that's exactly what I have in my notes. I'm not kidding you, Clay. It says, what a creative way to show happiness to others. Do you see?
Yeah.
Because I want, and you want to say it out loud, right? Because chances are, and this is the truth that happened, she went to 2 houses. That was it. And she was back and she was like, whew, the whole neighborhood, the whole entire neighborhood is happy now. 2 houses, right? Do you see? So approve them out loud and not asking them to become something different. Number 2, use fewer words and details. Okay? This is for, just stop being so wordy for a blue. You know, yellows have a short attention span. This usually is a blue parent trying to cover their fear, right? Is then they go, well, are you sure you don't know that? Did you check the tires? Are you sure you want to go there? You know, did you look at the map? And they're just excessive with the details. You're just nodding your head. What?
Yes.
Is it killing the fun with every word?
I mean, just the more words, the less fun.
Right.
That is exactly right.
And it really does just start dulling your sparkle,
really does.
right?
That's a great way to put it.
So
I've had bosses that have done that.
What?
I've had blue bosses that have said, you know, hey, I have an idea, just, you know.
And it's just too much.
It's just like, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Just let me go try it.
Yeah,
that, you know?
let me just see if it's fun.
That's
right. The third is include them in the conversation, trying not to tune them out. Do you know what I'm saying about that, April, now that you're blue?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you want them to talk, but sometimes they have a tendency to what?
Squirrel.
Exactly, right? Right? And they're like a ping pong ball going to...
Like, excuse me. Yeah. Right here. Right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
And you can literally start doing your checkbook in your head while they're talking, right? So, but they can tell when you tune them out, right? The yellows can definitely tell. Do you see that? Do you, when you're included in the conversation?
Oh,
you know?
For sure. But what is it? What do you mean by that? Tune them without tuning them out?
Sometimes the yellow can get caught so much in the details of, like, you like Avery can be telling me about a shopping thing. She'll go, I went to the shopping thing, and then there was this coffee shop, and I tried this coffee shop, and they have this coffee called coconut cream, and so I got a coconut cream, and then they had banana bread, and I'm going, so what about the shopping? Like I'm back at the shopping, and then she goes, oh yeah, the shopping. So I went to park, and then I was parking, and then they had that ramp, so I was at the second level of the ramp, and then I saw this car that I used to have.
So
it used to be, and it's just
your tendency is to tune her out.
and then after a while of that, all we hear is want, 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 and we're trying to go.
That's so true.
So it's that.
Yeah.
So you're trying not to tune them out. So we just learn to redirect and still give them attention.
That's good.
Does that make sense? So I love that. I love giving the tips that are practical that you can take home and really put into practice right away, right?
So there's a lot of combinations.
There's a lot of combinations. There's 16.
Okay.
We're going to talk about 5 of them today, but in the book there will be something for everybody. So in talking about these tips, Clay, you really have inspired me to talk about yellow adults with red children, right? And the tips, because what's really interesting, 2 extroverts, but 1 task, right? And 1 people. So the first tip I want to give you is tone down your enthusiasm. Your need for fun is not matched by your red child.
Why not?
That's not quite
They
the
would like
question
their
I was
life
looking
better,
for. So how does that land with you? Tone down your enthusiasm.
I frowned when you said that because that is really hard for me to tone it down. But again, it's going to require that pause to stop and go, okay, hang on. Not everyone is looking to soak up all the fun out of life.
And what's really interesting is when that was the tip that was read and I asked you that question, I also saw a reaction on your face, Rachel, because I think the last thing we talked about with you was the struggle you would have with showing enthusiasm. Isn't that interesting? He has to tone it down, and isn't that fascinating?
Well, that's...
And you're both on the people side. But this is why we have to unravel this to the core. Do you see? The second one is give facts, okay? Give facts, especially if you're talking to a red child. Not, it's just going to be fun. We're just come on, it'll be fun.
You'll love it.
Yeah, you'll love it. The reds and blues, whenever there's something happening, need to have reasons behind it.
Is that true, Brent?
Bullet points and a reason.
Yeah.
Data-driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Now that you're thinking about your kids or the kids that you talk to?
Yeah, I think so.
Because do you ever get pushback? Do you ever get pushback?
Ever not get pushback?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that, again, it's just so hard because I don't need facts. That's what it is. That is what's so interesting about this is both on the extroverted side.
Yes.
But for me, that's all I need to know is who's going to be there. What's it going to be like? Tell me more about it. But I don't need data. I don't need information about it.
But your red child does.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Your red child does.
Yeah.
And any blue child that tip can actually go across the board, but definitely with the reds. Okay?
That's good.
Tip 3, use fewer words. Now, that sounded like something I just said.
Yeah, you said the same thing with the
Similar.
blue to the yellow.
Now listen, this one's about, for the red, your words have to be efficient. Whereas with the yellow, they get distracted with too many words. Do you see the difference? Too many words for the yellow, distraction. Too many words for the red, and they're like, I think Brent even said it once, take out the fluff, man. What are you saying?
Bullet point.
So there's, it's the similar tip, different reasons.
Oh, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. As a red, you resonate with that?
Oh, yeah. And fun can be a bullet point.
Yeah.
It just doesn't need to be the whole conversation.
Hey, it's been proven that 98% of kids love their life when they try this.
Ooh.
That's a fact. I don't know. I was
that
trying
a
to
fact?
incorporate them into I was trying to incorporate the fun into a fact.
Let's do it.
Well, but you know what she just thought? I'm going to Google that fact because I think that's a little bit too high.
Yeah,
I don't think that's right. Mm-mm. And what I really want you to know about these tips too is these fit you and your red child. These are not the tips for your wife. Okay, she's going to have a completely different set of tips for a blue parent or a blue teacher or a blue counselor with a red child.
Is that in
And
the
that's
book?
going to be in the book.
Okay.
Okay? Brent. Red and greens. By far the hardest combination. This is polar opposites, task and people, introvert, extrovert, right? Directly across from each other. And the difference being also that the things that you do share are weaknesses. So it makes the combination more difficult out of the gate, but actually the strongest combination when it's healthy.
What did you
Okay.
mean by the weaknesses are so similar?
Okay, so the reds and greens, what they share is stubbornness, frustration, anger, strong will, right? Whereas the blue and the yellow, you and I, we share sensitivity, creativity. So what we share is strengths. So it doesn't make it as conflicting.
I see.
Right? We still, April and I still look at you and go, really? Can you
That's living in La La
take it down?
Land.
And you're really like, come on
That's
already, quit
exhausting.
dragging your feet, right?
But does the stubbornness and the frustration probably makes any sort of conflict prolonged, or could make it more dragged out because both of the parties tend to be more stubborn
Yes,
or
that's
holding on to it?
You're hitting the nail on the head. He's looking like, just do it. Like, why aren't you moving fast enough and getting this done? And he's being stubborn, let's just use the word stubborn, do it. And you're going, quit pushing me. I resent being pushed. And the further you're pushed, the
more you
harder your
push,
heels go
exactly.
in. Right? So it's that kind of combination that there has to come to an understanding, right? That truly a lot of your strengths are his weaknesses. And a lot of your strengths are her weaknesses. And when you realize that and you bend into each other and honor the design, then you become an unbreakable force going forward.
Moves from oil and water to peanut butter and jelly.
I'm gonna jot that down, okay? I'm gonna jot that down. So, your first tip, Brent, dial down the intensity.
In general, Brent, just dial it all
Just
down.
dial it all down. It only causes a shutdown response, okay? There's so much more motivation to a green in encouragement than there is in threats. And a lot of times a red, it's a threat. If you don't do this, or if you you set them up for failure. Well, you can take that, but if you break it, you're replacing it. That kind of thing. So
This is real story.
I
Right?
know. You just told me.
This is
What?
What
real.
is the story
Tell us,
about the thing
share.
that was broken?
This was the GoPro. He wanted to borrow my GoPro on a whitewater rafting trip, and said, that's about $400. I said, yeah. I said, so if you lose it, you bought it. I said, okay. So he took the responsibility and went on the trip, and last turn they flipped over and he didn't have it
Properly secured. He hadn't stowed his luggage.
and it was lost.
Yeah.
So
to the back of that, you're going, you can borrow it, $400, you lose it, you replace it. How'd that feel to you?
It's just such an ultimatum. I mean, I think I would know that would be true, and I would not. I mean, in that same circumstance, when you said they flipped over last turn, he didn't have it done. I'm like, oh, oh, so close. And just it's the whole thing of disappointing somebody. I mean, I don't know him, but I think the last thing he would want to do is disappoint you. You're, just so visionary and so probably larger than life to him. And so he never intended probably to have that happen. That wasn't his his plan or his vision. Responsibility is in there. It's understood.
Yes.
I don't know that it's always perceived otherwise.
Yes.
Like, he probably knew in borrowing the GoPro that he was responsible for it.
Exactly.
He didn't need to be told. That adds a whole nother level of
Yes.
what feels like stress.
Yes. And that other level that wasn't needed could be replaced with encouragement. Hey, what's your opinion about the safety of the GoPro? Because I really value that opinion, because I know that you know it's important to me. So I would love to hear what you're going to do with it.
And I like that because I think I would have to get buy-in on the conversation, because if I hadn't have and didn't bring it up at all, said, sure, and he lost it,
You would have been furious.
he would have said, at that time, you never told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like how you said included in the
Yes,
conversation.
because he's a child.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they don't know, right? So that goes all the way back to the time when we were expecting them to have a certain reaction. Well, if they don't know, that's where we're guiding them with words to feel respect, feeling of worth, right? And we're toning down that intensity, and then we're encouraging. The second tip for you is slow down your pace. And again, this is for a green child. Make room for them to develop their interests and move at their pace.
Which,
Go ahead.
This is about Brent and his green son, but
This is about red adults with green children.
it is hard for me to not interrupt and interject here.
No,
But,
please.
Brent, I feel like your go-to is to criticize yourself. I mean, even when the last session, when you said, tell us what it's like to be red, you started with, well, I know sometimes I wound with my words. But the story that you told about your son and him needing to get a job and how he went to Chick-fil-A, went to Publix, but then he ended up starting a photography business, which I was over here as you were telling it being like, wow.
Yeah, I
way
agree.
to go. I mean, that's amazing that you fostered enough relationship and space to be able to let him choose that.
Yeah.
So I think it does seem like you're trying to do that, or clearly you have done that.
Yeah, sometimes though, just through this red lens is really tough. Slowing down the pace, I do think we found hiking and backpacking as something where we really can slow down our pace and we're not worried about the clock. As in the back of my head, I know how fast we're going as far as miles per hour and our pace, and if we're ahead, if we need to pick it up or not. But in the end, we have a destination, and we both enjoy the outdoors. We both enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
That's been a place that really has been a respite for both of us. That we both feel that we can be our own personality, or not personality, our own temperament, and be okay and sort of find some middle.
And that's what I'm saying. You did it perfectly, developing their interest and letting them move at their pace. And I find your questions fascinating too, because in this learning environment, the conversations are going to what can we do better, like and how can we become better. And sometimes after all these sessions we're talking, I'm feeling the weight that you're feeling, that I can tell that you're being a little burdensome, that we're talking a lot about what we have to do and what we've done wrong. And and let's have a rah-rah session of what we did right.
There's a lot of good out there, I know they chose us because we're very troubled, but there's some real good.
But that's good for you to let all the yellows that are
maybe that's the last session. I'll just go around and encourage everyone.
You've had enough of the other part, and I get that. The third tip that I want to give you is their opinions. Ask them their opinions and include them in the decision making. Here's the kicker with that. When you do that, be prepared that their decision or their idea, just like your polar opposites in temperament, are going to be polar opposite in idea.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We are so opposite on a lot of our opinions.
Yeah.
But he is equally opinionated as I am. I found that.
Wow.
Especially when they're asked, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that. What do you think about that?
the Reds in my life that have asked my opinion, one of the most frustrating things is when they ask my opinion, I give it, and then they try and convince me that it's wrong. No, this is the, and like you said earlier, how Reds think about attack, like they have thought about it. There's just those times where I have to consider my own opinion often, or consider before I give my opinion. And if I've gone to the trouble of formulating one,
Right.
although I have one quite often, but sometimes I just, if somebody's asking me on my opinion about something, I have to formulate it and come up with it, get it out there, and then to just be snapped back, because usually it's pretty quick from a Red. Just no, you didn't see this, or you're not thinking about that, or whatever. It's disrespectful. I mean, of those needs. I can see that, especially if you're as a child.
Yes.
To be shut down quickly would make you feel like you didn't have as much of a voice.
So from a Red, that's a good tip, right? Being asked the opinion. Yeah.
Well, she just called it disrespectful, which is a really strong.
Well, because what's one of her innate needs is respect.
That's right.
And what does respect mean? Being asked for their opinions or ideas.
So can the Red parent disagree with the opinion?
Well, I'm like you. I don't want to speak for all the Greens. And
Yes, but I want
you are.
you to. Yes, I want you to.
Of course. I mean, I think it's inviting a conversation. The other two tips that you said were dial down the intensity.
Yes.
There's an intensity to a conversation, and then there's an intensity to this is the way we're going, get on the bus kind of thing, And those are just two different things. And I think a Green feels that intensity maybe the quickest or most intense. I don't know if...
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, I guess 5 years ago, sort of as it was most intense with my Green, and it's probably the 1,000th time I'd asked him to get on the bus, and I didn't want any back talk, and it probably wasn't encouragement. It probably was threats. And I remember getting nose to nose with him. And he knew he had unleashed all my anger at that point, and there was fear in him.
Yeah.
And he said, you don't understand me. And I knew something had to change. It just couldn't go on like it was anymore. The look in his eyes, what he communicated to me, that you just don't get me.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how much I knew about facts or getting on the bus or goals. We were not aligned.
Yeah. I loved Brent's visual of it literally took them being nose to nose and looking each other straight in the eye and that happening. And where there was key words there that I think you would probably say different now is you said he was fearful because he felt he unleashed all the anger in you, when really what we're learning is you allowed that. He didn't do it. You chose to do that, and it affected him, right? So again, let's talk. So you have your tips, and again, you have a blue wife. These are not her tips for the Green child. Her tips will be in the book, okay?
Got it.
April, not all the temperaments are opposite, right?
Right.
We talked about your son that was blue. So again, there's a familiarity there because you both speak the same language and have similar thoughts.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily make it easier,
Right.
because almost sometimes there's too much contentment there that you assume now you know what I'm thinking and I know what you're thinking, and why aren't you being sensitive to me, or or why aren't you attention, or why aren't you're just like me, why aren't I feeling good about this, right?
Right.
So these are for blue parents with blue children, okay? So remember that, again, this is really important too. You have your experiences and he's gonna have his experiences, and they're not going to be necessarily the same, and that's what I want you to be aware of. They're going to be similar, but the experience may be different, okay? So number one, use criticism and correction gently, okay? There's a higher sensitivity to criticism because blues are already so critical and incredibly hard on themselves, right? That I know my son, if he even thought that I raised my voice, which I don't raise my voice, but he heard because of maybe the way I said it, he heard it so much harsher than it was actually said because it came from me. If it was his dad or his sister, it would sound totally different, right?
Yeah.
But it's the way our words are because we talk so critical and judgmental. Like, really, you did it that way?
Yeah.
Oh, his arms and legs would fall off.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's one of the reasons why, because I'm a singer, and we sang around the house all the time.
Okay.
And so my older son is the red, and he could take my correction and my criticism and all that kind of stuff well. But my youngest one, when I would try to go in with him the same way, he would just shrink back. He was like, I don't want to sing, you know? And that makes sense, you know,
Doesn't it make
because
total
the
sense?
criticism and the correction wasn't tempered per kid.
Yes.
Because I'm giving a general one. And so
Yes.
he's going, no, I don't want, he stopped trying.
Exactly.
Not that he didn't have the skill. He just stopped trying. And it
Yes.
just took him that much longer.
Yeah.
So that makes
Because
a lot of
remember,
sense.
a blue child, they'll be the first one to put themselves in timeout. Like, normally there's not a lot of discipline that has to happen with a blue child because you'll walk by and they'll be sitting on the step and you're like, what are you doing, buddy? Oh, I did something wrong. I took my sister's toy. Okay, you know, right? But that criticism correctly has to be done gently from a blue to a blue.
What does correctly look like?
Validating, right? Asking them what their thought process was behind it because they need, you know, reasons, just like we said. So there's a tone there. Like I used to get on my knees with Bryce, so I was eye level to him. And I would say, tell me about what just happened and tell me about what you would like to see differently. And he would say, what just happened was I threw my Thomas the train and I really want to just go back and get it and pretend it never happened. You know? Now, if I would have said, why are you throwing it? You know, what are you throwing your toys for? That's way too much. If I even said to him, did you throw your Thomas? He would completely crumble onto the ground, right? Because he heard it so much harsher than I actually said it. Do you see? So, and again, I'm talking a blue parent to a blue child, okay?
Yeah.
Try not to transfer your fear or worry onto your child.
Sounds like he has enough
Exactly.
himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, man.
It's easy to do, isn't it? Just like I
easy
did
to
with the
do.
Elmo thing.
Even now, I think about he's older. He's a man.
Exactly.
And he doesn't need mama as much as he needed mama before. And I'm glad I am. His hands are out of my pocket. But he's venturing into life, and I don't want him, again, my fears, I don't want him to mess up, you know, because I know what he is aspiring for. And I know, you know, but I can't do that.
And you know he already doubts himself, and he already tries to.
And I don't want
excellence, and he
to. I don't want
already-
to exacerbate that. I really
Exactly.
don't want to make that worse. And it's so hard. I have to. Like I literally find myself biting my tongue. Like, don't say that. Don't say
Because
that.
now we know he's probably already thought about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's probably already.
And I don't want him to be afraid.
No.
You know, I want him to be more brave than we naturally
Exactly.
are. But that makes a lot of sense. And even as they get older, this is going to be truly valuable to me because as an adult, you're going to make decisions and you got to pick a life partner. You got to decide what to do with your kids. I mean, just so many things.
Yes.
And I don't want my fear of
Exactly.
messing up and
Transferred
failure
onto
to
his, which he
transfer.
already carries, right?
Yeah.
And that what you just said is so critically important is because if we can get this right, this changes even how your children will pick schools, teams, clubs, how they'll date, how they'll pick a college, how they'll eventually pick a wife or a husband. This is going to affect every single decision that they make. So number 3 for you, April, make sure your child knows and feels that you love them even when they make mistakes. Okay? So let me tell you one more Bryce story. He golfed when he was little, and I was his caddy. And I'm with him, and he's looking down at this putt, and I can see crocodile tears just dropping. And I'm like, buddy, you've practiced this putt. What's going on? And he goes, I did practice it. I practiced it a lot. The coach told me if I practiced, it would be perfect. And I missed it, and I'm missing him today. Right then, it dawned on me. He thought that if he practiced, he would make perfect, and he does not handle mistakes well because he's blue, right? So that day I made him a plaque and put it in his room, and it said, practice makes better, mistakes make perfect. And he still has that to this day.
Wow.
He took it to college, he has it in his apartment, and he looks at it because for a blue to make a mistake, that can just derail them, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I even want to encourage us. We're going to learn from our mistakes here, right? But for a blue, allowing them to make those mistakes and knowing that they're unconditionally loved no matter what, especially from a blue parent whose expectations are so high.
That's that emotional safety,
Exactly.
Yeah.
just that need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's very valuable.
Good. Good. I'm glad that you like that one. Rachel, I don't want to leave you out. You inspired me to talk about green parents with yellow children. Okay? So this is both people oriented. Again, one extrovert, one introvert. So the tip 1 is state expectations clearly so they know what's required of them. That even makes you smile. Like what would your daughter?
She wakes up in the morning with her idea of fun, you know, where she's going with it. And I think if I get ahead of her and say, this is what I'm thinking, I can always kind of, you know, not always sell her on it, but
It
you know,
goes
we can
better.
talk about it. It goes better if I'm ahead of her in that way. I would imagine leading her is sometimes a challenge, but if I'm ahead of it, if I have a plan, if I've thought about it, if I put some effort into that and can communicate that to her, it does go better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she finds her own thing, and it might be counter to what I have in mind.
And why I like it, I put here clearly is because, and Clay, you back me up on this, there's a lot of gray area with yellows, right?
Sure, because we're pretty nimble, flexible. You talk about your pie.
Yeah.
I love it when people add or take away from mine. I'm like, I can roll with it.
That's it. Yep. I mean, there's just no clear boundaries with this temperament, whereas these temperaments, very clear boundaries.
I think that's the times when she and I gel the most is if she loves to make things. And one time I just said, you know, look on Pinterest, all those ideas, pick something out. Let's go get what we want and we'll just do whatever you want. And she loves the spontaneity.
Freedom.
You said spontaneity before.
Yeah.
The freedom, the creativity for me to be in that whole thing with her, give her the attention.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Which is a great going into tip 2, which is verbalize your affection and love. And the key word there is verbalize,
Yeah.
because that's very important for this temperament.
I think sometimes I can verbalize my frustration to her more often than I do my affection and love. I try and show it in other ways, but that's not necessarily natural. So when you say that, I'm like, and she lightens up, or like you said, dulls the sparkle.
Yeah.
That's for sure the case. If she brings me something she's created or made or is excited about, it's all about the words that I speak for sure.
And it's very interesting because I can say adorning and lovely, wonderful words to my yellow daughter. And because we're blue and we're so deep and very almost like poetry, she's such a deep relation, it's very easy for that verbiage to flow out of me. But when her dad says something who's very green, you would have thought he hung the stars and the moon. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Like he just said 2 words and she's Google-eyed over him, right? And that's because it's from that temperament. And so I want you to understand when you do tip number 2, so powerful are those words from your temperament, right? Because again, what did I say about that temperament? When they do speak up, we want to be ready to listen, right? So that will mean the world to your yellow.
That goes for the kids in my life too.
Exactly.
They're looking for me to speak up.
Exactly. Tip 3. This is so funny because it was one of your weaknesses. Push yourself out of your comfort zone to show more excitement.
She's nailing me on these.
We get that your child is much more energetic than you. We get it. We get the yellow's energy level. So, but pushing yourself out of there to show her, to match some of that sometimes is going to absolutely fill her love tank. Right?
Can I add to that one?
Oh, absolutely. I can see your leg just a wiggling, wanting to say something. Go.
Well, I would also just say, as much as possible, when she brings something to you, I think matching that enthusiasm is really important as well. Even if they go, hey, that's going to work better tomorrow, but that's a really clever idea. That feels so much better than that's not, I don't see that. We don't have time for that, or I don't see that happening, or that's too crazy. That's too bizarre of an idea.
Too overwhelming. That's I think of times when she's needed me to make a costume for, always. The costumes, the Valentine boxes, the creativity. And I'm thinking, I have to go to the store and get this. Okay, I don't have that. And I'm thinking through how to help her get there, but I think what she needs is really me just to ask questions and be like, whoa, that's amazing. Where'd you come up with that idea?
And that might be all it takes. The costume may,
Not happen.
you'll go back in. Yeah, you'll go back in and go.
Costume, right?
Yeah, do you want? And they'll go, oh no, I've moved on. I found this
over here. I have a question about that because in practicality, if there's a day where there's time, there's kind of a trail of creativity and excitement, right? It's like one to the next to the next, and it is like 10 minutes here and 15 minutes there. And as the mom, I'm looking at it being like, can't you clean it up? And I know what works and what doesn't with her, but is there a point? I know there's needs that aren't going to go away, but is there a place for me to speak about my need for peace and to communicate what that does? I get that I can show excitement about it, but when it's the 15th time in the day that I'm showing excitement, is there a place to come back around and say, hey, this has a cost?
Yes, no, listen.
That's a great question.
That's a great question, because this isn't a journey that we're just learning children in front of us. What you're gonna find is when you put in that effort, children, remember, they're the purest of the temperaments. They're going to catch on so much quicker than you are going to catch on. So again, me honoring Avery as a yellow and Bryce as a blue and talking to them about it. Now, there's a place for discipline, right? You said after the 11th time, I would probably have stopped at 3. But me speaking life words over Avery and speaking life words over Bryce, guess who listened? Bryce and Avery, right? So when they were very young, we were out, and Avery always wanted to stop at another store. She never had enough. It was never enough fun, right? And Bryce didn't even want to go at the beginning, but went. So I would hear, I'm a mom in my van Odyssey, and I would hear Avery say to Bryce, if we stop at one more store, we'll just go down one aisle. It'll be the toy aisle. And if we just go down that one toy aisle, you can pick the movie tonight and you can read me a book. No response from Bryce. You know he's processing. Blue.
Is it worth it?
And Avery jumps in again. You can pick the video in 2 books. Then you hear
Sweetening the pot.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Bryce says, okay, Avery, we'll stop at one store. It's one aisle. It has to be the toy aisle, and that's it. Okay? These are 7 and 8-year-old children that are working this out because of what words were spoken over them. Avery learned to honor Bryce's need for sensitivity and support.
That's good.
Bryce learned to honor Avery's approval and acceptance. Do you see? And
They didn't even know that that's what they were learning.
They didn't even know what that was learning, but it felt good. It was right. They got, along. They had a riot going down the toy aisle. Do you see?
They heard it from you.
They
and
heard
that
it
way they were able to give it out to others.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in talking about your story, the more that you say to them too, well, I would say I would come home from work at night and they weren't allowed to ask me any questions. I would go in my office, I would shut the door for at least 5 minutes. I didn't shut it for 3 hours, but I was processing and I was decompressing in space and silence, right? And I came out of that office a better mom. So I would explain that to them. So then you would hear the conversation of, hey, let's make sure we're being sensitive to mom because she needs some more time to get the macaroni and cheese. I mean, whatever it was, I'm also teaching them what my innate needs are.
That's good.
So that you're teaching them, and then you're teaching, absolutely, teach them about your husband. Teach the kids in your class. Hey, you know what? Your teacher is wired for calm and harmony. What do you think that looks like? And then when they start going wacky, you can have a code word to your kids in your class. Harmony. And they're like, oh, that's what you need, right? So it can be a fun journey, it can be a learning journey, but it's always a 2-way journey. Whether it's an adult, a child, a new friend, a husband and wife, a boss. Do you see? We're always teaching each other. Does that make sense?
So you say kids learn quicker.
Way quicker.
So kids learn how fast, adults learn how fast.
They learn eons faster than you learn.
It seems
Kids
like
are probably more open.
They're
to learn.
way more open. They don't want to
And
push back.
Adults are probably a little more closed off. Well, that whole I am the way I am, that's just the way I am. I hate that comment, but that's just the way I am.
And thank you for saying that, because everything we've learned over these sessions, I adamantly teach. We never use our temperament as a weapon or as an excuse, ever, right? And that's what the kids have a tendency just to be okay with who they're designed to be, where from adults you're hearing, don't label me, don't put me in a box. Okay, just doing that, they're putting themselves in a box, right?
It seems like you're giving words to the kids where they probably already knew you needed sensitivity and space because they experienced you maybe not having it or having it. You're just giving them those words.
Yes.
It's good.
So that they can encounter and use it with every other blue that they know, not just their mom. Do you see? So what we know is our children are going to struggle with their weaknesses throughout their lifetime, just like we do. And we just want to remember that the words we speak will echo in a child's life forever. So let's understand that the words that come out of your mouth will shape these children into the teachers, the coaches, the counselors, the parents that they're going to become. What's the nicest thing somebody's ever said to you?
I'm funny, and my teacher says I have a good imagination.
Someone said I had like a really nice personality and that I can be really respectful.
Your smile is contagious.
One of my friends said, like, you're the best person in the world.
Really? How did that make you feel?
Like somebody really cared about me.
Yeah.
My coach, I love him because even if we don't win or don't have a good game, he'll be like, you guys did good, and he'll tell us what we did best and what we need to work on.
My teacher, she doesn't yell at us, and she says, you did it right, and like it makes me feel so happy that I did it right instead of doing it wrong. I like hearing good things about myself from someone else.
Yeah. Has anybody ever said anything that hurt your feelings?
You're so obnoxious.
Really?
All the time. I hear that maybe once a day. Those little comments stick with me all the time.
Someone at my school said I wasn't good at like a certain sport we were doing for PE. It made me feel kind of sad and that I should stop trying it.
This kid said I was a waste of life.
Oh, really?
It's just no one's a waste of life, in my opinion.
That's right. What's the very favorite thing your mom and dad have said to you?
That they're proud of me.
Yeah.
They said you're gonna do great things one day.
I love when my mom and dad like say I'm awesome and cool and like they love me.
I like to hear like good job, well done, congratulations, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's I love you.
Really?
I really like that.
My mom says I'm special sometimes.
Yeah.
And my dad says I'm a really hard worker.
Well, that must make you feel very valuable.
It does.
She says like I'm beautiful, smart, pretty, and stuff.
Yeah.
Makes me feel nice and makes me feel more confident and positive.
My mom always tells me that like I'm the most determined, so that's always stuck with me. Like if I have a project, I just remember like I'm the most determined one. Like, if I actually want to get this done, I can do it.
My dad tells me very frequently, and my mom tells me this a lot too, I'm glad you are my son. I just love that.